Sorry, we have some static here. Must have been a 180-gram record. I know that was a very bad joke. I was referencing my last video. But anyway, that's not why we're here today. We're here to talk about new artists. One of the things I've noticed is I've begun to revisit bands from my past. And in a sense, I'm rediscovering some of them. And when I do, I'll maybe replace some of those records for better pressings, or I'll fill in gaps in the artist's catalog. But still, it's usually bands from my past. And some are bands that I neglected and are only now getting into after all these years. And a great example of this is Tom Petty. And I've always enjoyed Tom Petty's music, but I never collected his records. And I even saw him once in the late 90s, I believe it was, at Great Woods in Massachusetts, and Lucinda Williams opened for him. And I think she was supporting her record Car Wheels on a Gravel Road at the time. Absolutely phenomenal record. And that was the first time I'd ever heard her, and I went out and bought, that record, I think probably the next day. And the funny thing is, up until recently, I only ever owned one Tom Petty record, and that was Southern Accents. And the only reason I owned that one is because back in, I think it was 1985, I belonged to Columbia House, Record and Tape Club. And they had this thing where they would send you their choice of the month on a slip. And if you didn't send the slip back, they sent you the record automatically. Well, I neglected to send the slip back, and they sent me the record. And I was too lazy to send it back. It was a very easy thing to do, but I was, 17 or so, and I kept it and listened to it, enjoyed it okay, but never bought another Tom Petty record after that. My brother is a huge Tom Petty fan, so he bought Echo for me. I listened to Echo, absolutely loved it, and told myself, I need to start listening to more Tom Petty. So thus began my Tom Petty collecting spree that I've gone through over the past 6 months or so. But what about new artists? I admit that my exposure to new artists and new bands is fairly limited. So in a sense, I depend on my brother to introduce me to new bands because he kind of has his fingers on the pulse. He has a long drive to work, so he's always listening to, I believe, Sirius, and he's listening to new music that I never have a chance to hear. He seems to be my gateway to new music. He, in a sense, is my Pandora. So what about new artists? Are there any that I listen to these days? Well, there are. There's actually 3 of them that I'm really into, and I've made it a point to buy all their records because I'm crazy, and I have to do that for no reason at all other than I'm a completist, I guess. 2 of the 3 were actually introduced to me by my brother, of course. So let's jump into this. I'm going to start with Samantha Fish. Now, if you don't know Samantha Fish, this was the first record that I bought, Killer Be Kind, and that was because my brother and I went to see her perform live. Incredible blues guitarist, one of the best guitarists I've ever seen live, and I've seen a lot of music. Her slide playing is incredible, and she also plays slide on one of those cigar box guitars at times. Absolutely blows you away. So she also, she's still putting out new music. She had back, I think this was in 2022-ish, somewhere around there, 2021, this record, Faster. It still has blues on it, but it's also, she dips into pop, she dips into rock and country, and it's an incredible record that showcases her skills, as does her new one that she just released with Jesse Dayton. This is another incredible record that has rock and funk and blues, but she is primarily known as a blues artist. And kind of funny story is back when I started collecting her records, there was one record I really wanted, and that was Wild Heart. Now, when I bought this record in 2019, it wasn't being repressed or repressed. Wasn't being pressed again. There was only one pressing out there that I was aware of. And it was very hard to find. And if you did come across it on Discogs, it was stupid money that folks wanted for it. And I'm stupid, so I paid that stupid money back in 2019. And then lo and behold, it was re-released in 2023. And you can get that record now for like 25 bucks. So, joke's on me. But if you have a chance, great record to get a hold of. These are in no particular order, by the way. The next one I want to talk about is The Interrupters. Now, this band was not introduced to me by my brother. It was actually introduced to me by my local record store's owner, Todd. Now, Todd knows that I love Joan Jett and the Pretenders, and I was in the store one day and he asked me if I'd ever heard of the Interrupters. I'd heard of them, but I didn't know anything about them. And he handed me this record and said, "You won't be disappointed." And I wasn't. So I ended up buying pretty much, actually, not pretty much, I ended up buying everything that they put out. Their most recent record, oh, I should say this about them too. You will enjoy the Interrupters if you're into ska-influenced punk rock, especially their early records. When I say early records, their first 2 or 3 records were very highly influenced by that. And you can hear Joan Jett in there. I mean, the lead singer, Amy Interrupter, was a huge, or is a huge Joan Jett fan. And she really captures Joan Jett's energy in her singing style. But you'll also hear influences like No Doubt and Rancid and Sublime even. Great mix of it. And their most recent album was just released and it's called In the Wild. In the Wild? Yeah, In the Wild. And I think this was last year that this came out, and I bought it the week it came out. And it's also has that ska influence punk, but they also dip into reggae, rock, and there's a beautiful, beautiful ballad at the end of this record called Alien, which, if you listen to the lyrics, it'll get to you. You know, funny little aside, as I was pulling out these records, I didn't realize I accidentally pulled out a Billy Idol. I've got to listen to this. The last one today, and certainly not the least, is this band GA20. I've mentioned them before. They were formed in Boston, and I believe around 2018. And they're a blues-based band, and their sound stems from Chicago blues. And one of the things I love about this band is they're a power trio. They're a 3-piece band. So you've got 2 guitars and a drummer. Notice I didn't say bass player. They don't have a bass player. So the 2 guitarists will switch off doing the bass lines just by plucking the low E and A strings on the guitar. It's incredible how they do it. And they do have some great slide guitar. One of their records that they released is a complete tribute to Hound Dog Taylor. And I don't know if you can see this, but if you notice, you've got the slide here and missing a finger right there. Hound Dog Taylor lost a finger. So album is absolutely incredible. And if you do like the blues, you'll love this record. And their most recent record was just released last year. It's called GA20 Live in Loveland. And the band does tour quite a bit, so there's probably plenty of opportunities for you to see them in your area. And if you're wondering where they get their name GA20, it was back in the 50s Gibson used to make an amp by that name. It was a tube amp. And you know I love my tubes. So that's my list of new artists that I can't seem to get enough of today. So as always, I want to turn the question back to you. What new artists are you listening to that are putting out vinyl records? I'd love to hear from you on this. Don't forget to, like and subscribe. And also, as always, wait, what the hell just happened? I didn't get to tell them to take care of themselves and to enjoy their records. Well, damn. Well, goodbye.